Hello, my name is Crystal Fletcher, and welcome to my channel all about books. If you love books, then you've come to the right place, so please subscribe. I'll have author interviews, book reviews, as well as share some of the lessons I learned along the way when I was writing my novels. Today, I'd like to do something a little different and share an excerpt from my latest novel, Tears from the Sea. Tears from the Sea hasn't been published yet. I'm currently in the process of querying publishers, so please cross your fingers for me. The excerpt that I'm reading, I'm going to start right from the beginning with the prologue and the first chapter. And the novel is about a 13-year-old sea gypsy, and her family is killed during the 2004 tsunami, and she survives and is swept up into the world of human trafficking. She knows the sea, but she doesn't know how to survive in brothels. Tears from the Sea is very much a young girl's struggle to survive and find beauty amid the ugly. One day, the navel of the sea will suck all the water in and spit it back up in the form of big waves. Many will die. This is the Wolken Legend. An elder shaman woke from his dreams drenched in sweat. In his dream, his ancestors had come to him and warned him that danger was coming. In return for many precious offerings, the shaman begged the spirits to spare his people. The Moken had been warned. The day came. The shaman was right. Deep in the Indian Ocean, off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, a large earthquake gave birth to a tsunami. A chain of fast-moving waves, faster than a jetliner, traveled across 4,500-kilometer-wide Indian Ocean. Nature knew. Elephants were making their way to higher ground. Dolphins had long abandoned their play near the shoreline and were heading to deeper waters. Tiny sea crabs and lobsters had crawled up from their holes and were migrating elsewhere. Even the cicadas had stopped singing. Silence hung in the air, stuck in the stillness. Nature was responding. For the Moken who did not hear the shaman's prediction, their knowledge of the sea, their attunement to nature, and the memory of their myths told them danger was coming. That morning, the Moken heard the silence. When they saw that the sea had receded, they knew a primeval force was at work. So they joined the animals on higher ground. Myths passed down from generation to generation also taught the Moken a wave never comes in by itself. After the first wave, they remained on higher ground, escaping the second wave, which was more deadly than the first. On December 24th, 2004, when the tsunami slammed the coastlines of Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, the Maldives, Africa's Somalia, Kenya, and Tanzania, more than 230,000 were swept to their deaths. Communities were obliterated. Other than the very sick and old, most of the Moken survived. Chapter 1, and introducing our heroine. The wind had been blowing us north, past a small group of empty islands. Our kabang drifted amid wild mangroves, backed by hills and jungles that had been around since the time of Queen Sabine. A series of rock pinnacles exploded from the sea. Ruggedly carved cracks lined their sides like open wounds. Kingfishers and sea eagles cruised around the morning sky. Their wings stretched across traces of foamy white clouds as their eyes scanned turquoise water, and dense blankets of emerald, lime, and jade rainforest for more breakfast. I don't know what it was about that morning that was different. Maybe it was the delicious taste of rebellion or simple curiosity that led me to stray far away from my family. It was something I never did on land. My calling was always the sea. But on that day, the land called me, and I followed. That morning, our kabang was anchored the length of 4 palm trees off the coast of an island with the sandy beach that yelled out to me, "Come over here and play." Papa and my 3 brothers were sitting on the deck, repairing harpoons and reliving the events from their fishing. "Did you see the size of that grouper?" Phuket was now standing, his arms stretched as far as they could go. Papa and the boys nodded in agreement. "He looked nervous to see us," Phuket said. "You'd be nervous too if you saw 4 skilled fishermen like us," Toke said. "Yeah, but he didn't swim away and hide. He just kind of kept looking at us with those big puckering lips, like he was going to try and kiss Toke," Phuket said. "He wouldn't dare," Toke said, and everyone laughed. On top of the kabang's thatched roof, Aaliyah, Mama, and I had just finished laying out the morning catch. We fished according to the breath of the earth. When she breathed in, the tide was so high we dove for shellfish. When the earth breathed out, we dove for sea cucumbers and eels. Right now, she was resting, so it was time to play. "Infam, I see you looking at that beach. Go on, girls," said Mama. "Okay," said Aaliyah. "Thanks, Mama," I said. Aaliyah and I wandered the beach with rattan sticks, poking the ground in search of sea crabs and sandworms. But we were the only creatures straddling the world between the land and the sea. Aaliyah kicked at the sand. "Infam, I don't like this island. There's no sandworms. Where are the sandworms? Where are the crabs? Where are the animals for us to play with?" "I'm going back to the boat to ask Mama." Aaliyah tossed down her stick and stopped. Her little feet sunk deep into the wet sand. She broke into a run, sending water over her head until the depth demanded she swim. Her strokes sprayed, and then she went under. When Aaliyah came up, she held a tiny pink shell in her hand and went right back down for another. "Well, I guess I'll find out about the animals later," I said, amused at how easily my sister was steered in a different direction. I dug my toes into the wetness, and I watched the waves settle into the tiny holes I had created. When I tired of that, I ran along the water's edge to try out legs that were not quite ready to abandon the sea. As my speed grew, the water's touch washing over my feet caused me to almost lose my balance and fall into the lapping waves. "Woo-wee!" I cried as the water erased the trail of my footprints. With the only evidence of my presence on the deserted shoreline gone, and a backward glance, my eyes located our kabang and Aaliyah, who was now joined by Phuket, and the 2 were busy diving for shells. I'd never been on land all by myself. Not even my big brother Toke had. And Toke, being the oldest, was the first to do everything. As soon as I got back to the kabang, I'd bring this to his attention. But rather than return immediately to remove the sunshine from that dopey smirk he always wore, my feet decided to keep going. It was a decision I would regret until I took my last breath. My feet had led me right up to the place where the wet sand ended and the thick wall of jungle began. When I stood on the bow of the kabang, I was well acquainted with what was under me, so I went in happy to meet whoever happened to be swimming by. But this was different. Even though I had been introduced to the animals who lived on the land, I wasn't a hunter like Papa. What if I met a wild boar? The island wasn't big enough to be home for bears, leopards, or elephants, so that was good. Besides, Papa had taught us the land was like the sea in that there were creatures who were dangerous. But if you respect your environment and all who lived in it, nature was a friend. It didn't look for trouble. I'm not looking for trouble, I told the jungle. Okay, I was about to be all by myself brave. Taking a deep breath, just like I would when I was diving into the sea, I reached forward with both hands to part the dense vegetation and dove into the land. Away from the direct rays of the sun, the air was cooler, but my body was not immune to the humidity of the day and from the exertion of climbing and parting vines. Sweat formed at my hairline and ran in one continuous current from the base of my neck, the length of my spine, pooling in the crease of my bum before it overflowed down my thighs, behind my knees, down my calves, and around my ankles. Unlike swimming, which required little effort, climbing made my sea legs work hard. The story of my journey to the top was beginning to grow in my head like one of our ancestors' myths. I hadn't even completed my climb, and my spirit was sailing. This was going to be good. I would call out as soon as I reached the top, Mama, Papa, Tope, Phuket, Aaliyah, jail! But they wouldn't know where the voice was coming from. They would stop preparing harpoons, diving for shells, and talking. They would look up, down, and all around. Then Aaliyah would point in my direction and say, There she is, over there, on top of that great big hill. How'd she get so high? Phuket would say. She must have flown like a bird, Jael would sing. She can't fly, Toke would say, wishing it were him on top and not me. I would be frantically waving my arms, my feet barely touching the ground. Papa and Mama's smiles would reach me all the way at the top of the hill, and my siblings would be begging Papa and Mama to join me. Best of all, even Toke would be asking. I continued upwards. My impending success playing over in my head caused my stride to quicken. This was going to be good. Step by step, breath by breath, I made it to the top of my hill. I suspected conquering the hilltop was what it was like for Toke when he dove from the kabang with all his little brothers and sisters' eyes stuck on his every move. When I spotted my family's kabang way down below, my chest swelled with pride. My family were as I had left them. Aaliyah and Phuket must have gathered a lot of shells by now, but rather than call out to them, the story in my head took a break. I wanted to taste what I had done. Hands at my sides, I stood, slowly turning in a circle, drinking in the view from all angles. From up here, the vastness of my sea home was as immense as the sky. Shielding my eyes, I looked up at the sun, squinting. Even though my stomach was growling, the sun's position told me it was still early. Halfway through my second rotation, movement off the coast hooked my attention. It was a pod of dolphins. There was no play in their swim. They were heading quickly seaward. I moved to the side of the hill, taking shade beneath the jagged leaves of a palm. A yawn took up my entire face. I answered my tired by resting my head against the palm's rough bark. As I drifted into a morning nap, I wondered, why were the dolphins swimming so fast to deeper sea? Keep your fingers crossed for me. Thank you for listening. And next Tuesday, I will have another author interview for you. Thanks so much.